Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with the host Elio, and we are here with the absolutely legendary Mick Michaels. Welcome, Mick.
Hey man, thanks for having me. What an intro. I'm
Yeah,
looking around. When's he coming in?
yeah, bear with us, we're all sick. I just got mute there to kick stream. Sorry about that. So, Mick, for those people who don't know, who is Mick Michaels and what do you do?
Okay. How you doing, everybody? My name is Mick Michaels. I play guitar in Corners of Sanctuary. We are a new wave of traditional heavy metal band from Philadelphia, USA.
Cool, cool. Since we last spoke, I think it was just before beginning of December of last year, I think.
Yep. Right before the holidays. Yes, sir.
Cool. What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Since we last spoke, we had just released our latest holiday single at that time. And What If Christmas Was Every Day did real well. Pretty excited about that. We took the rest of the year off following that, and then we went into the studio in January. We've been recording um, nonstop, working on a lot of new material, some new cover songs, as well as some reissues that we have coming out this year. 2026 marks the band's 15th year anniversary, so we have some older albums that are being redone, reissued with the new lineup, new mixes, new masters, some addition to the artwork. They're going to be available on CD this year. We're working on a vinyl reissue of The Galloping Hordes, which was our 2018 album. That should be available for order probably by spring. That's what we're hoping. I know all the tracks are done, mastered, everything went to production, so we should have some information on that coming shortly. Um, we got a lot of things planned for the year to celebrate, our anniversary. We're going to be hitting the road, start playing out later this month. I think our first show is February 21st, and then we have a string of shows that follow that. We're going to be doing a West Coast tour this summer. Um, we got a biography coming out on the band, which we're kind of excited about. We've been working on it for a few years now, and we had plans on releasing it at the end of 2024. Then it was supposed to be 2025. We decided to shelf it until our 15-year anniversary. And because of that, we had to add a little bit of time, a chapter or two at the end, because we had cut it off, somewhere in 2024. So we wanted to kind of fill in the gap there, but then release it during our celebration year. So that's what we're doing. Plus, we got some new music coming out um, later on this year, but we have some cover singles coming out in the next couple of weeks. We got a limited time retro logo out right now, so it's like a throwback from the 80s. Um, just something fun, something to celebrate the time. Who knows if people like it enough? It may become our permanent logo. Who knows? So we're just staying busy, having a good time, being appreciative of every opportunity that we get.
Cool. We've got a couple of questions from the chat already. Coming
Okay.
thick and fast this time. Ozzy Queen of the Rose asked, how did you come up with the band's name?
Oh, the band's name. Well, it's a twofold, right? So everybody has this secret place that they go um, where they don't feel that they need to prove themselves to anybody, right? It's just it's a safe place. It's a place of comfort, so there's no judgment or ridicule or anything of that nature. And they're called corners of sanctuary. And it could be reading, it could be writing, it could be exercise, it could be watching TV, it could be cooking, gardening. For us, it's music. So music is a corner of sanctuary for us. The only difference is we want to share that corner of sanctuary with a lot of other people. The other definition, and because it was a twofold thing, a corner of sanctuary is a safe place for a fighter to be, that you can touch your opponent, but your opponent can't touch you. So there's two different versions of the safe idea, right? But again, for us, music is a corner of sanctuary that we want to share with other people. It's a very we're trying to make it a bigger corner, right? Because corners are usually off like this, so we're jamming all these people in the corner. We're trying to make that corner a little bigger.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Thank you for the question, Ozzy. Um, got a question from Jaya. There'll be a lot of questions from Jaya. And keep them coming, Jaya. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. She asks, your music is often described as hard rock by some and metal by others. How do you personally define metal, and where do you see corners of sanctuary fitting within that?
Well, that's a great question. If you do a search on us, Google has us listed as a hard rock band. You know, not much I can do to change that. We are, listen, we grew up, it was called heavy metal. Today, metal is different than heavy metal. And what heavy metal is today isn't what we knew as heavy metal back when we were kids. So we always just classified us as heavy metal, and we let everybody else decide, how they want to define that. Um, in recent years, and I would say recent years is like the last 7 years, we've even speaking to venues and bookers and stuff, they start to categorize us as more of a hard rock band because of what the definition of metal is today. And if that is the case, then we probably don't necessarily fit into it because we're not a screamo band. We're not, not to say that we're not intense, but our music does have peaks and valleys in it rather than being up here the whole time. But again, that's why we categorize ourselves in as a traditional metal band or a classic metal band. But I'll be honest with you, at the end of the day, it's all rock. It's all some form of rock and roll. And however somebody wants to classify us, as long as we're being classified, I guess somebody's paying attention. I don't really get hung up on it too much.
Yeah, I was going to say this. Compared to 30, 40 years ago, in today's sort of like music, as today's sort of like as a broad umbrella, there's what must be 300, 400 different types of different styles of rock and metal.
Sure, absolutely.
Because you can 1 minute you can have I know there's like sort of like the Ned Flanders metal band type of thing, where it's all based on Ned Flanders from The Simpsons. You've got math rock, you've got math metal, you've got symphonic metal, you've got all these different types of rock and metal.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it all, and here's the thing, it all stems from the same root. So technically we're just kind of extensions of the same family. And to give you an example, not to sound one way or the other, but over the last 15 years with this band, we've played with countless types of bands of all different styles and genres and forms and you name it. And I'll be honest with you, man, we've never had a problem. We've played with some super heavy. I mean, they were so heavy, it was just like unbelievable. But we held our own. We played with lighter bands, regular rock bands, hard rock bands, traditional rock and roll bands. I mean, we've been on bills with rap artists and pop artists. So we've been able to work our music as it's needed. I mean, we have different kinds of songs. We have songs that are heavy to us, but then we have songs that are not as heavy, and we have stuff in between. So we've never really had an issue with it. The issue that we're seeing nowadays is more with the venues or the bookers because of their definition of what they think metal is, when in reality it's anything you want it to be, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Bands that were once considered heavy metal, are they not considered heavy metal anymore? I don't think so, right? They're still probably categorized as, or they've been solidified as such. So I'm not exactly sure, but like I said, if somebody's thinking about it that hard about Corners of Sanctuary, then to me, I look at that as a win-win. That means somebody's trying to put us somewhere where we're going to at least get some notice. So Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
yeah, yeah. Thank you that. Thank you for that, Jaya.
Yep.
Um, so you mentioned that you've been in the studio to re-record your earlier material.
Yes.
Have you got sort of like any set dates for releasing any of that stuff, or are you just like sort of like waiting for it to sort of
Well,
like
we
get?
yeah, so last spring in April, we re-released our debut album, Breakout, uh, reissued, all new. It it has the current lineup playing. Plus, we took a couple songs and we literally reworked them, changed changed titles, changed lyrics, some arrangements, some new lead parts. So the album's like a brand new album. In my opinion, it should have been the album that originally released for us, but that's not always the case. Our first couple albums had been pulled a number of years ago because we just had some problems with them, and I didn't want them out there to represent us. They did what they had to do in the beginning, but as we were progressing, we just figured these albums aren't where they should be sitting in our catalog. So over the course of the years, we've been reissuing songs from this album and that album, and we finally got to a point where we said, hey, let's just start over the next 5 6 years, start reissuing some of these first albums so we can get them back out in the market. So the initial our first release was something that we wanted to get to as a whole, and we did that. So Metal Machine, that we started last year, was celebrating its 10-year anniversary. Unfortunately, because of some schedules issues, we weren't able to complete it in the time that we had thought. Everything was done except for some final tweaks, which we have started working back on in 2026. So we are hoping that that album becomes available late spring, early, so somewhere between May and June, that should release on CD. And then like I was mentioning earlier, the vinyl release of the Galloping Hordes should be available this spring as well. I mean, all that information will be on our website, and of course, most up to date stuff, our socials, Facebook, Instagram, with links and that nature. But we have some singles coming out soon, so we're looking forward to that. And then just we're going to be hitting the road. It's been a number of months since we've been out playing. We always kind of shut down for the holidays, but taking the time to be in the studio was something that really needed to be done, so that we could have pure focus on it. Usually we piecemeal it throughout the year, um, based on our live schedule, but we decided to really kind of pull back and spend the first part of this first quarter of the new year, in the studio.
Cool, cool. We've got a question from Ozzy, Queen of the Rose. She asks, "Who is your most who is your sort of like main influence, inspiration?"
Oh, for me personally,
Yeah,
um, wow. Well, I mean, as a kid, I mean, Kiss was definitely influential, inspirational. There was just something about, I mean, of course, there was the makeup and all that, right? That larger than life. I think that kind of captivated everyone in the 70s. But I never, their music too was something that it just resonated with me, and, you know, made me want to do this. And as I got a little older, I discovered Judas Priest, and that's when I think I really started making every effort to be uh, an artist of some sort in terms of music. They encapsulated what I wanted to do in a band situation, right? The sound, the style, the look, the feel, the attitude, that whole thing. KK Downing is a huge influence on me, on my playing. Um, I actually, just a couple years ago, had the opportunity to meet him in person, and I interviewed him as well a few years before that, which was just an amazing thing for a kid like me. And I was, I was just completely floored meeting him. He was a great guy, and like I said, very inspirational in how I play and how I approach my rhythm guitar and things of that nature. So to me, that's, in terms of, like, say, the hard rock, heavy metal. But I've also been I growing up, we only had the radio, so I had an infinity to pop music. I've talked about this before. I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, I listened to things like the Osmonds, the Jacksons, the Bee Gees. I grew up on R&B and the Beatles and things like that because my family listened to a lot of different stuff. So it was all inspirational. I mean, as a person who's striving to be a songwriter, like Barry Gibb or Neil Diamond, their artistry really, even to today, like I've been going through a deep dive again of just recently of Neil Diamond, and getting that, like, those nuances of how he wrote the lyrics to the melody and the guitar and things of that nature, and it's beneficial, even though that may not be the music that I'm playing, doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, and it doesn't mean that it can't give you some kind of insight to hone your craft even better. So I find a lot of inspiration in that. And believe it or not, like these days, I don't listen to a lot of like hard, and I mean, I listen to the old stuff of the heavy metal, hard rock type of thing, but I spend more time listening to um, the singer-songwriters, even though I'm not a singer, that like about how they craft the music that they do, and why is it that people gravitate to it? What are they doing differently than than I'm doing, right? So I'm trying to get better at what I do by following their lead.
Cool. Cool. Thank you for that, Ozzy. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Um, so, right, be prepared there, Mick. We've got a lot of questions from Gia.
Okay.
Right. First one is Jay asks, "You're a fan of Christmas, so am I. What is it about that time of year that resonates with you? And what inspired you to write What If Christmas Was Every Year?"
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Listen, as far as back as I can remember, Christmas has always been something so unbelievably special to me. I may not be able to actually put my finger on it. I know that these days, the older I get, there is the power of nostalgia, and remembering past Christmases with family members and friends and people that aren't here anymore. Sometimes um, kind of takes precedence in my thinking, and I think what draws me. But I always felt it was a magical time. I mean, even as a kid, right? And and I hope this isn't a spoiler for anybody listening, but when you find out that, you know, what you're told about Santa Claus isn't what you're told about Santa Claus, I think a piece of the magic dies in all of us. And I think that I actually, I don't think, I feel, I believe wholeheartedly that if we were able to retain that belief longer, or even throughout our whole lives, I think that the world may be, or would be, a better place. People, because if you once you stop believing in the magic, whatever that is, whatever you want to deem that as, I think that that's when we start becoming cynical. We start doubting everything, and that's when I think conflict really starts to ensue. But when we believe in the magic, that means we believe that anything is possible, that we can overcome anything. And I think that's probably that, just that magical world that kind of exists for that 6 weeks, is just something that I think many people long for. I think that's why it's still so popular. It's not something that's fallen out of fact. Think about how many things have fallen out of trend, out of fashion, out of vogue. Christmas hasn't. If anything, it's gotten even probably stronger. I mean, Christmas music is a big deal. And what inspired me to do Christmas, or Christmas songs, or this year? I mean, like, there's always that thought, what if Christmas was every day, right? And I've thought about that a lot. And then even if you do a search on it, you ask that question, Google or AI will say that, if it was every day, you would lose the feeling of it. You would lose the excitement, and it wouldn't be new and anything. And they may be right, and maybe they wouldn't be, because as I started writing the song, you know, kind of with all the Christmas trappings, so to speak, that kind of like make sure everything's in there. As I started writing the song turned into something else um, where the person in the song, their Christmas every day was because they found the person that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives with. And for many of us, that's something that's happened, and for others, not yet. And I consider myself kind of blessed. I know that sounds, not so heavy metal, but that I was able to do that. I have been with my wife for a very long time, like, and so she knew what she was getting into. Marrying a guitar player and with long hair, and I don't think I would have been able to accomplish even a smidget of what I have if I didn't have, her and her support. So to me, Christmas, what if Christmas was every day? I mean, in a sense, the gift of life is just that. And we need to make the most of it we can. I mean, I'm still learning to do that as well, but so that's the long and the short, and I hope that didn't bore you.
Yeah, great question there, Jay. Great question. Um, we've got another one from Jay. Um, Jay asks, "What are your thoughts on how metal and music music more generally has split into so many genres and subgenres?"
I think it's confusing. Somebody who writes and plays, I'm oblivious to most of it, in a sense that I don't know what one genre is anymore to the next. I mean, like I said, oh, that's metal, but my version of metal and what somebody else is different. But at the end of the day, it's all music. I think where this genre thing is really come into the forefront is because people have a hard time fitting into certain boxes or niches, so they want to create their own. Totally understand that, right? Everybody wants to have their own style, their own say. Um, but I think it becomes confusing for artists who are looking to expand their catalog, because if you step out of your genre nowadays, sometimes there's backlash. Oh, you're a sellout. Now you're doing this, or you can this kind of artist can't play with this kind of artist, and things of that nature. And I just find that to be just that's ludicrous, because if you had if in your job, whatever your job would be, say you work in a hospital, medical field, if you had the opportunity to work with a surgeon that didn't do what you were doing, but the learning would be, so beneficial, of course you would do it. You would take that opportunity, because it's a once in a lifetime thing to better yourself, better your craft, expand your connection, so on and so forth. Artists do the same thing. They've always done that. They've always done that. It's like, there's such a divide that I think that it causes hostility, not even just among the audience, but among artists as well. Like they have to go prove themselves or something of that nature. So I think that it's caused a lot of confusions for artists that want to branch out, or don't care to brand their music one way or the other. It's just self-expression, and you want the audience to decide what it is. And because listen, the truth of the matter is we all like music of different kinds. If we have one kind of music that we like, then you can't say I only listen to heavy metal, but you love listening to Christmas music, right? So there's a diversity already. Like and we're in such a time, like we're so lucky that all of us alive today do not know a life without music. Right? This isn't 500 years ago where not everybody heard music all the time, right? I mean, some people could go most of their lifetime without hearing real music of some sorts. However, we hear music every day. It's in the background, it's in the foreground. We get lost in it. It's underground, it's above ground. It's at our disposal, and it's instantaneous. I mean, it's amazing. So to say that we only listen to one thing, I think is not 100% true. That's just
yeah,
my opinion.
yeah, yeah. It's like I've seen it in the last 30, 35 years where different styles of bands have gotten together and actually went on a full blown tour.
Right.
Um, I've really the first really big sort of like experience for me was back in 1997, where Type One Negative released the October Rust album, and they teamed up with as people might not know, Type Was Negative is sort of like goth doom outfit, and
Right.
then they teamed up with another band called Stuck Mojo, who released Pig Walk around about the same time, and then teamed up, and Stuck Mojo was a rap metal outfit, and it's just like two completely different bands
Right.
working together, and they were having fun with it. You know what I mean? It's like because when I seen them, they were Pete Steele at the time were like jumped on stage, played with them. It was both bands were messing about with each other, having a laugh. So they're learning from each other at the
Right.
end of the day. So and then there's sort of like another gig I went to was the Ozfest in '98. 15 completely different bands got together on two stages. Obviously, going from like Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, all the way down to Cold Chamber
Right.
and everything in between. Because you had thrash, you had sort of like you had Slayer, you had Pantera, you had Cold Chamber, you had Immortal, varying
Right.
different genres of music there, all working
Right.
together,
Right.
and there were 80,000 people there rocking out.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so yeah, and everybody was having a lot of fun.
Sure. Absolutely.
So yeah, so yeah, thank you for that, Gia. Thank you for that. There's a few messages from like come through. Where are they? They disappeared. Jay was saying this is very informative and very informative. Oh, where are they? So yeah, uh, oh yeah, there we go. Very informative. Also says variety is the spice of life. Um, uh, Lisaboo says, got to love the festivals. Yeah, get to hear a lot of music.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah. Well, we got another question from Gia. She asks, when you're writing your music, does it feel more subconscious, like it comes to you, or more conscious and deliberate?
I think it's a mixture of both. Absolutely. I think that because it's on my mind quite often, that something's going on all the time, and I'm hearing rhythms or melodies or some lyrics in my head. Sometimes I write them down, and other times I don't, because I've learned that, like, I mean, if that was the case, I'd have no room anywhere to put all this stuff. So if it's something that keeps sticking with me, then I know that I need to take attention to it, and and then I'll work it. I'll write it down. I'll demo it, and maybe even present it to the band. So I do know that, like, like on the subconscious type level, there has been things that I woke up with, and I had to get it down in some capacity so that I could retain it later. Oftentimes, like, if I'm noodling around and I come up with something and I don't do like, put it on my phone, or if I'm in the studio, I'll remember the chords, maybe the progression, but not how I played it, right? Like the emphasis or the thing. So that's usually something important. Like if it's something that strikes me, I go, oh, I better record that really quick. And sometimes as fast as it comes, it goes. So you have to be ready for that. But there's been a lot of work that I've done that's been a conscious effort, right? So like I said to myself, like, hey, I'd like to write something in this style or format. What would that sound like based on my playing? And I'll work some things and I'll go, okay, well, that chord isn't working. So you tailor it. Sometimes you change chords just simply because it helps the singer better. It makes more sense vocally, or as you're trying to uh, keep some kind of element of what's the word I'm looking for? Like involvement with the listener. Sometimes just one chord change or a note change could just change that whole statement, that whole lyrical and chordal statement. So I think when you've been doing it for quite a while, and I'm still learning the ropes even after all these years, I think it's a combination of the two, and that's a lot of it. You don't want it to be forced. Um, you want it to be kind of a natural process, but it has to be true to you. And I've been asked questions similar to this before, and I've always told people you got to be true to yourself. That means you got to write what works for you, not that you're trying to fit into a niche, not that you're trying to fit into a genre. You know, I'm sure that everybody could do that, but is it sustainable? Like, I think I could write a thrash record, but I don't think I could write 5 thrash records without repeating myself, because it's not in my style of playing. Not to say that I couldn't learn it, but I've learned that I want to write
Oh,
what I
I
want to
think we
write.
might have lost Mick there.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, can, yeah. He
Oh,
froze there for a second.
there you go. I just tell people to be true to themselves and write the way that's most natural to them, rather than trying to uh, be someone else or be something else, because that's not sustainable. So it's a combination of both subconscious, unconscious, um, half asleep, whatever you want to call it, and a conscious effort, knowing where you want to go and what you want to accomplish.
Cool. Um, Gia has just said, I love that answer. Yeah. Thank you for that, Gia. Another one from Gia. She asks, how do you know when a song is finished, rather than just abandoned or still at work in process, still a work in process?
Oh wow. Um, I think that listen, I think there's a point that when you're writing and you're being diligent with it, right? You're being focused. All your effort is being concentrated on it. The song will let you know when it's done. Um, I think that a lot of songwriters, including myself a long time ago, um, you would overwork something. Oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, and I could put the kitchen sink in here, and I could add this, and I could put, I don't know, clowns in the background and elephants in the foreground. And I think that that's not what I think songwriting is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be an extension of yourself, and you're relaying something musically. And I have found that songs tend to, once you get them moving, you can kind of feel when the song has come to its end when you're writing. And I've noticed that not just with myself, in terms of when I'm writing material on my own and then demoing it, But when I'm working with the band and we're in a whole studio, or rehearsal type of environment, and we're just kind of riffing through stuff, there's a tendency that, okay, we've explored this riff and we've explored this riff and something like that. And listen, any good book or movie has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Otherwise, those other parts don't mean anything, is right? So there has to be that. How long you make it, well, that's up to you, but it depends on your impact, right? I have over the years tried to make my statement shorter. So I really want to, give as much bang for the buck that I can in this frame without overstating it, getting people tired and boring. And oftentimes I'll listen back to demos and I'll go, oh, that part's just way too long. Like I start expecting a change. I can feel it, but then I'm prolonging it. Now, will there be times when you would want to do that? Yeah, you're artistically taking some license and you're creating a different type of feel. But that's not every song. It doesn't. It I don't think that that's feasible all the time, unless that's what you're doing. If you're doing prog rock or prog metal or something of that nature, then man, you can riff all day and you got the studio time, do it. But oftentimes, um, if you're looking to take songs from the recorded realm to a live setting, I still believe that, that 1-2 punch in the live keeps people engaged. It doesn't tire them out. Like when you're on a song that's, 17 minutes in and people are starting to go get popcorn, or they're taking the curlers out of their hair, they went to go get a shower, a bite to eat, then they come back and you just finished. I think you lost the, people that way. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. When I was at school, I'm going back nearly 40 years ago. One teacher, an art teacher, said to me, or said to the class, when he was sort of like teaching us certain things in like doing like I think it was some doing like a pencil drawings, and the teacher turned around and said basically pretty much when what you said there is knowing when to stop, knowing when to say, right, I've getting to the point, getting to the bed, um, sort of like the drawing, sort of like really finished. He's just like thinking, stop there, because then he explained that basically it can ruin a bit, like sort of like in this case a picture, by adding more stuff to it where it doesn't need it.
Yep.
So
Yeah, sometimes less is more. Back to the part of the question, like, do you abandon songs? I don't necessarily abandon songs. I call it I shelf songs for a while because maybe I wasn't ready to finish that song yet. Like for me, nothing ever really goes to waste. I wind up kind of picking apart. Like I've taken songs that we've written, we've recorded, we've even released, and then years later I go back through the song and I go, you know what, that song should have been, and I'll just take it apart and rework that song and create something new, which is kind of what we did. Were a couple of the tracks on our re-release of Breakout. There was a couple songs on there that exactly that thing happened. Everything was pulled apart and we kind of moved things around. It's like working with Legos. At something that didn't seem to work, out the door, and we moved forward. So I don't truly abandon anything. I just shelf it until a later time where maybe I'll have more tools to address it properly.
yeah, or even a different perspective.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Oh, excuse me. Thank you for that, Jaya.
thank you.
So we've got another one from Jaya, sort of like relating to the previous question. When you're writing music, is it more about personal expression for you or about communicating something to others?
I think it's a little bit of both for sure. Um, we tend to write about um, self-empowerment, overcoming challenges, surmounting the charge and becoming a better individual. And we do that in a way we use, like sometimes we talk like we'll use war or battles to express that point rather than just saying, like, coming straight out, to make it a little bit more interesting, and at the same time allow the listener to kind of take the lyrics as they see it fit, right? I mean, sure, I think as we write, as songwriters or musicians or whatever you want to call us, I think we sometimes have a point and purpose to what we're writing. There is something personal to it. However, instead of just hammering somebody over the head with our own agenda, so to speak, um, I think we've always written in a way for people to kind of make some of their own interpretation for whatever it is that they need, right? What I surmounted in my life may not be what somebody else has to surmount, but what they need to surmount is just as important to them as it was to me for what I had to do. So they could take it any way that they want. And I think that that's the beauty about music because it is so subjective. And that's kind of where people get into trouble because it's either this or that. Like they look at it, it's like one way or the other. But no, it's a lot of gray there because it is subjective. What you like, I may not like, or I only like some of it, and you like something else, and for whatever reason. But you know, does music have, or even the lyrics, do they have to have a message? I don't think so. Not necessarily. I mean, a lot of stuff that was written in the 80s necessarily, especially in the pop field, never didn't even seem to make sense, but it some of it was just a play on words or how it sounded with the music. So how it resonates with you is up to you.
True, so true. Because I can remember the 80s and some of the music, you just like thinking, really,
Yeah.
really, you just like thinking, what is this? This is this even music type of thing? Yeah,
It's
great,
true.
we might have a good beat, but when you
Well,
listen to the lyrics,
they're doing it today too. So pop music has always been that kind of thing, but I think other forms of music have done it as well. Just to see if it would work, right? For fun, for experiment. I mean, I know that as the Beatles stopped touring and then just became strictly a studio band. I mean, they were doing everything and anything as experimentation. See what they could get away with, what the people would accept, and they were right. People accepted pretty much all of it, even
yeah,
60 years later.
yeah, yeah, because the most famous part of the Beatles was when they went to India
Right.
to experiment with some of the music over there. And I believe, I could be wrong, I do believe that George Harrison became a Hare Krishna, I
I
think.
don't. Yeah. Well, he did get heavily involved in that whole transcendental whatever something continental divide or or whatever it was, but it definitely
Yeah,
influenced the music for quite a while.
yeah, yeah. It did, yeah. So anyway, thank you for that question, Jaya. Um, Final question from Jaya at the minute. She asks, "How old were you when you wrote your first song, and what inspired it?"
Wow. I started playing drums at about the age of 7, and a couple years into that, I think I started writing songs, so to speak. We'll loosely say songs. Um, so maybe 9, 10, something like that. Um, but I found that they just didn't seem to kind of translate well. I mean, I would sometimes play them for my mom, and I go, "Hey, check this out," and I'm banging away and creating this like ensemble of stuff with these words, and she would go, "I don't get it." And, Like she didn't see, there was nothing musical to it. So I around 12 or 13, I made the switch to guitar, and I started quickly seeing how some of those ideas for songs, very fundamental song structures at that time, of course, um, were translating from my head to the guitar, to, from the paper and all that, much easier. So I guess my first, like, if you're talking like from guitar perspective, I guess my first real song, was maybe about 13. And believe it or not, uh, that song we play today in Corners of Sanctuary, it's called Metal Machine. And when I dug that song up for this band, in a couple years after we started, I came across it on some cassette tapes, and I was like, oh wow, that you know, it's a real simple song from the mid '80s that kind of captures what we're trying to get to. So if you want to hear what I wrote when I was 13, go check out Metal Machine. And that's kind of, and there's actually a number of songs that this band has done over the years that were either complete songs or part of songs that I wrote in my early teens. A Fistful of Vengeance is another one. Like I said, there's Metal Machine. There's a song called "Here We Are Kings." I think I was 14 when I wrote that. Um, and I'm not, when you hear back, when I heard back those original cassette tapes, I was like, there was something so fundamental about them that it seemed to click with me, and I'm like, I wanted to capture that again. Like there was an innocence and an intensity all at the same time, because when you're 13, 14, you believe whatever you're doing is the best that you could, there's not much of a filter in the sense like, hey, look at this, right? Unrehearsed, probably not in tune, whatever. And you're like, man, this is, and there's something kind of invigorating about that, and refreshing as an adult, where you're questioning everything sometimes, or you do have some hesitation, because once you're in the music business for a while, you realize you can't just put anything out, because it stays with you for a long time. So you have to maintain a certain level. You want to maintain a certain uh, presentation of the music and of the band. So, but yeah, I mean, check out those songs and you'll hear what I was writing, or what my writing style was like, in those early stages of my guitar playing.
Cool, cool. Thank you for that, Gia. Um, we've got another question from Jane this time. She asks, who's your favorite metal band?
My favorite metal band, probably Judas Priest. My favorite album of all time is Stained Class. I mean, if I could create an album even remotely close to that, I think I'd say that's it. I'm retiring. I feel good. I've achieved what I set out to do. And then from there, I'm a big Kiss fan. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I've been a Kiss fan since the '70s, and I'll probably even now with all the BS that goes back and forth. And I got my own issues with how the band does things, but what Kiss fan doesn't, right? It's a constant love-hate relationship with them, but you're always supporting them, I mean, I like a lot of bands, but those two bands I probably gravitate towards, hands ever since I was a kid, and even as an adult, I'll push to them.
Cool, cool. Thank you for that, Jen. So, going on to, you've got a lot coming out this year, doing a lot of writing, recording, rearranging, and all that stuff. Plus, going out on the road as well. And now, is there going to be any sort of like merchandise for this, or for all this?
Yeah, we have some new Cause Axe t-shirts for the Forever Metal tour that we're doing, like we're doing 2025, 2026, as part of our anniversary. So they're available now. We're also, like I said, we have that limited logo, retro logo. We were going to let it run for a little bit. If we actually get some decent feedback about it, we may have a limited run of shirts for that as well. All of our stuff is available at our shows. Um, we don't have any purchasing online. However, if there is something that you want that we have that you see that we posted about or something like that, you just got to reach out to us. You can, direct message us. You could send us an email. You could sign up for our newsletter, and we can, put together a great merch pack for you. And we try to keep it as inexpensive as possible.
Cool, cool. And now, brilliant, Lisaboo. I've just put your website out in the chat there. So yeah, good. If you like what you've been hearing here, and you want to sign up to the band's newsletter, please do, please do. Got a question from Gia again. She asks, in today's landscape, do you find streaming, radio, or other platforms more helpful for bands like yours?
Wow, that's a crazy question for sure, especially nowadays. First off, I don't use Spotify. I'm not a streamer. I watch streaming on TV. I watch some of the streaming channels because you have no choice nowadays. You got to have something. But for music, I don't do Spotify and I don't do Apple and all that kind of stuff. I buy CDs still, and I sometimes buy. I buy vinyl. You can see I have a collection of vinyl that I listen to and that I display as well. And some of these are from the era that they came out in, rather than these reissues or reprints or type of thing. I like vinyl that's kind of beat up, and it looks like that means it's been listened to, right? It doesn't have to be super crisp for me. I like the noise on the turntable and that kind of thing. But do I think that, listen, have bands become more accessible, even unknown bands, indie and the trench bands? Absolutely, right? And the streaming platforms have made that possible. The distribution deals that are now available to bands without a label is fantastic. However, that's about as far as it goes, unless you're putting out big money to get the numbers and to get the awareness. But as soon as you stop paying, all your numbers drop again. So it's become a sea of noise, and it's very hard to discover new bands that aren't paying to be discovered, right? The bands that you're being shown through, say, with Spotify, they're all paying for massive campaigns. They have a juggernaut of money behind them. That's why you're seeing them. That's why they're being recommended. But there's millions of other bands that don't and can't do that, but they're out there and they're just as good, if not better. We're being force fed through streaming what it is that we watch and we listen and what we do and how we interact. And the old days of when we all went to a record store and spent hours flipping through one by one, and we had, you were hearing things and you were seeing things and you were smelling things and you were reading things, and it was just an amazing time. And it's not the same. We're being force fed certain things. That's my opinion, but as an artist, I know what's happening behind the scenes and how it's being handled, and most bands go unheard. So 15 years ago, it was kind of a plus because all the gatekeepers were kind of in flux. They weren't sure what was happening, and it took them a number of years to kind of come back. Well, they're back, and they're probably bigger and badder than ever, and that's kind of a bummer. But what they can't stop, and what I think bands need to do, is get out there and play as much as they can. The downside of that is there's less and less places to play, especially here in the United States. And there's more and more bands, but we're all fighting for the same spots now. And there's only so much that goes around. So another trend that's starting to come back up in fashion, becoming very popular is the whole do-it-yourself thing. Bands are getting together and cutting out the venues, and they're cutting out the bookers, and they're creating their own events, and they're doing it, on the fly, shoestring budgets, but the intensity there is probably what's most important, right? It's getting the music to the people and not being, because most bands now, it's a pay to play in some level, and whether you're streaming pay to play, or you're paying to actually play live, and there's just not that kind of money to go around for the independent artist. So we need to come up with better, more efficient, more beneficial ways. And I think maybe, doing it yourself, but getting out there and playing any way that you can is probably something that we need to do. And unfortunately, it was already kind of in the tank before COVID, but COVID really hammered away and made it much harder for a lot of the smaller bands.
Yeah, yeah. I over the last, it's got to be, I think it was around about what, 98, 99, when really bands, some of these big bands who basically had record deals, basically turning their backs on the labels, and they started to say, you know what, screw this. We're going to be there. We're going to go to directly to our fans and say, right, we're going to write an album. Who wants to help fund the time in the studio? And one of the main bands that who started to do that trend was a band called Marillion. I don't know if you know the band.
Yep.
They basically so successfully asked the fans to actually fund for the album. They could have recorded the album. I think it was about 3 or 4 times over. And that's when the sort of like do-it-yourself attitude again was started to come back into it.
Yes.
And started doing their own things and said, you know what, screw the labels, type of thing.
Yeah. It's a tough balance for sure. At the end of the day, though, it's the artist or the band's responsibility to take the lead for what they want to accomplish, because no one's going to care more than you. So you need to put that time in, and sometimes you got to take a chance and see what happens. I mean, no one's going to care as much as you, so why not?
Yeah. Like I said, it's just like this is one of the reasons why I try and support as many of the independent bands as possible, is because of their sort of like do-it-yourself attitude, and saying we can do this. That's why I keep getting people like you on a regular basis to help support what you're doing.
And we appreciate that. We appreciate that across the board, not just for us, but for the music scene, the international music scene as a whole. We need more people to do that.
Yeah. So so Jay, thank you for that. There's been a few comments about right. Lisaboo, where is it? Where have you gone? There you go. Lisaboo says, love physical music, like CDs, albums, stuff like that. Jane says she doesn't have a record turntable to play vinyl, but she says, I've got a CD player.
Yeah. I got a cassette player. I got an old turntable. I got a couple CD players, and I got a cassette player, which I've always loved the sound on cassettes, especially for metal. There was just something about it. It just sounded. There was just something different about it. It wasn't super warm like the vinyl, but man, it had such a crunch. It was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, bear with us for 1 second. I've just got to switch cameras, so bear with us. bear with me. Wrong one. Right. That's my setup.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah, component tower. Nice.
Yeah. That's basically my setup there. And it's 23 years old and it's still going strong.
Nice. Yeah, they don't, I mean, I always like the components. I got a really old system myself that they don't make it like that anymore. It doesn't have that sound quality, that durability, even the volume capacity is fantastic. Some of the stuff that I have is late 80s, early 90s, just when that, just when high fidelity was really hitting its peak with the vinyl and the CDs and stuff. So yeah, that's can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, that system is about 23 years old and it still kicks your ass because literally, if I crank this up to maximum, the whole street would hear it.
That's great.
Got this question from Gia, and she says, if there was no limit at all, time, budget, genre, what kind of project would you love to try next?
I think I would want to do, and it's actually something I've been wanting to do for a couple years. And a few years ago, I started on it. I started recording some stuff. I want to do more of a metal type, um, not opera, but um, based around the Christmas Carol. Really something, heavy, dark at times, but uplifting. And they would be, of course, longer songs, but they would kind of, again, peaks and valleys like a roller coaster. And the story with a twist would be told. That'd be something that I would really like to do. And like I said, I did start it. I worked on it for a while. And then I realized that that's not for everybody. So it may be more of a passion project for me down the line. And even in this past season, I did some outlines for some things that I wanted to cover and ideas in my head that I wrote down, but I also demoed some things for future reference just in case. But it's going to be a time-consuming project. I don't know if it's something that's ever going to come to be, but you know, it's good to hope.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing wrong with doing little bit of dreaming and dreaming big.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for that, Gia. And she also says, "Ooh."
Ooh.
So, uh, so, um, this is probably going to be I've got a couple of final questions. Yeah. From myself. So, have you got any sort of like confirmed dates for the tours you're going to be doing?
Yeah, we got so February 21st, we're doing Gettysburg Rocks, which is a charity festival that happens all weekend to help raise uh, money awareness for children's cancer research. This is our third year doing it, and it's a really great event. So we want to continue showing our support and it's you got there's a lot of bands in a lot of different places, so it's really exciting. Um, the 25th of February, we're at Sellersville Theater in Sellersville, Pennsylvania. We're supporting Bad Marriage and the Midnight Devils. February 28th, we're playing in the city of Philadelphia at the Century. Then we go back into the studio to work on some stuff, and then again in March 28th, we're up in Connecticut. In April, I know it's April 18th, we're at Dead Man's Fest in Erie, and then we're in Delaware supporting Enough's Enough. This will probably be our sixth or seventh time working with Enough's Enough, so we're kind of excited about that. And then in July 15th to the 20th, will be on the West Coast of the United States. We have some dates worked out there. We're doing some other festivals throughout the summer. There's a Veterans Festival. Um, our bass player is a veteran, so it's something that's near and dear to our hearts. And we'll see how the rest of the year goes. But we got some releases coming, biography, and some other surprises.
Cool, cool, cool. I know I've asked this many a time, but because there's a few people here who are new here. So, have you got any advice for people who wanted to become a musician?
Yeah. Maybe be a doctor or a lawyer, even an undertaker. I think you have a better shot at having a good, sustainable living. Listen, the thing is I always say to people, it's not for the faint of heart, but it is something that is achievable. You just have to know what it is you want to achieve and what your level of success is that you're looking for. If your level of success is, hey, I want to play out on the weekends, and you do that, well, then there you go. You're successful at what you do. If the goal is to write music that's your own and record it and release it, well, then there you go, man. You're successful. And I think what we've done in the past is we put a limitation on what success is and a cap on it. If we're not Metallica winning Grammys and have millions of dollars and packing in stadiums, then what we do isn't a success. Listen, that is successful for sure. And who doesn't want that? We all do. But we all don't walk the same roads, right? And when we realize that in our lives, maybe that's not the success that we needed or really wanted, it was more of a fantasy, because we all walk a certain path. And once we find what it is that makes us feel successful, nobody can take that away from you. It's not about money. It's not about awards. I get all that. I'm not putting it down. Like I said, we're all striving for that to some degree, but that can't be your only motivation. That can't be your only focus. Otherwise, what you're doing, like I said earlier, is not sustainable. We all get into music, or the people that do. I remember when I got into music, I wasn't thinking awards and Grammys. I wasn't even thinking money. I was thinking of sharing whatever it is that I did, with other people. And I knew I wanted to be in a band. I didn't even know how I wanted to do that. I just knew I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to work with other people. And that was my goal. And I made that my goal, to get into a band as soon. This especially when I played guitar, got into a band probably within 6 months of playing guitar. I didn't play very well. I only knew a couple chords, but the guys didn't know that. You know what I mean? I hid as much as I could, and I just wanted to play in that band situation. There was something empowering about it. And somewhere, probably, I guess, in my youth, I felt that I was powerless in something. I think the music empowers us. It gives us something, some level of strength that maybe we feel we're missing someplace else. And that confidence has given me opportunity to share my music, share the band's music with a lot of people. I mean, I've been to the UK several times. I've been to Europe. I've been to Canada. I've toured throughout the United States. I played some great venues. I played with some fantastic artists that were my heroes that I grew up listening. And I've played with countless other artists on the independent circuit that were just amazing and inspiring. So to me, that's a level of success that I wouldn't have had if I never took this route or took the chance. So that's what I try to tell people, in terms of, like, if you're going to be a musician, find what works for you, go with it. Don't worry about everybody else.
Sound advice there. Sound advice. So, going to be starting to wrap things up there, Mick. So, have you got any final words, like such as where people can find you on social, so they can keep up to date?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, first, thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure. I love the opportunity to come on and just chat with you. I'm hoping that we can get out to the UK again to see it actually live and in person, and maybe, see it a couple more shows. Um, But you want to learn about the band, check us out at www.cornersofsanctuary.com. Everything's there that you need. If you want to check us out on the socials, just Facebook is Corners of Sanctuary. I think Instagram is Cos Nation Metal. You could just do a search for Corners of Sanctuary, and like I said before, the good, the bad, and the ugly pop up. So you'll you know what I mean? I think there's even some free stuff somewhere you could probably illegally download and hear, but take advantage of it. Check us out there. And if you like what you hear, share it with a friend. If you don't, send it to your enemy, but just get it to somebody.
Cool. So guys, I've put the links down in the description. So go check out Corners of Sanctuary. I've actually seen them live in person. I've met Mick, I've met the rest of the band. Go check them out. Literally go check them out. These guys are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So Mick, thank you so much for coming on. It's been
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
So one last comment from Jaya. Mick, thank you very much for being here. I enjoyed this a lot and also learned a lot. All the best wishes for continued success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
So guys, until next time, catch you all later.